What is up, guys? How is everyone doing? Welcome to another live for the 4 Train Express. I am your boy, the 4 Train Express. So hop on in and get on, take a seat. And before we get started, let me introduce you a very special guest, Tats from Pinstripe Chronicles.
Tats, Mike, how's everything going, Mike? How's your day?
It's not bad. You?
I'm doing very well. For enjoying my day off.
Yeah, I am too. So a quick roll call. Shout out to the chat. Andrew, salute. Everyone here. Welcome. Thank you all for joining me today on the final 2022 live stream for the 4 Train Express. Tats, how are you feeling about the Yankees now than you did when we first entered 2022?
I think the team is in a much better position pitching-wise. I think that's been their focal point so far. I think they addressed some of the core issues, more of a solid rotation. I think their bullpen is stacked. That I'm very confident with their bullpen.
Yeah.
Providing that they stay healthy, because that's been the bugaboo with this whole team throughout this run with these baby bombers, and as they're now into the teenage bombers at this point. But I think that they're in a really good spot. There's still that question of which kids that come up are going to be effective, and who's playing left field seems to be the biggest question in this whole season at this point.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I personally am feeling better going into next year than we did last year coming into this year. Now everyone is still talking about this big move, and we discussed this on your show. I was in the chat, I should say, but you had discussed this with, Rob and, your other co-host, but Donald, that's it. Rob and Donald and you had discussed it, and it was interesting because Donald is under the impression, like myself, that at the end of the day, Reynolds is coming to New York. How do you feel about that?
I think it's a makeable move, but like I said in the show, it's going to hurt. And I think that's what has some portion of the Yankee fans a little trepidatious about making that move. How much of our prospects do we want to invest in one player for an off-season move?
Right.
If this was the trade deadline at this point, and we really needed somebody to just fill in that left field spot, you may have to take that gamble, which is why I wanted to make the move for Soto. So the players that they're mentioning for Reynolds, I would have done for Soto without even thinking about it.
Oh, absolutely.
It was an immediate issue that needed to be addressed. Yep. There's still other options for left field rather than throwing everything into one piece.
Yes, that I agree with. And there was, I don't know if you know Joe from The Shift.
Yep.
Okay. So he put out a video, and he was saying how it's unlikely that the Yankees will get him and that the Dodgers are the favorite. And I just saw this video, and it got me thinking. I get that there's trade value involved in what, Pittsburgh wants. But the Yankees, over the last 48 hours to 72 hours, have brought in 4 pitchers and an infielder. One of them is Lissandro Santos, I think his name is.
Yeah, something similar. Yeah, I can't pronounce it either.
Forgive me if I botch his first name, but he is a 24-year-old left-handed flamethrower, and he's starting out at AAA with us. Now, my thinking is with these moves that the Yankees have made, they could also use those guys and flip them in a deal. So then that way you're not killing your prospect pool.
Yeah, no, that was something that was discussed in the chat about flipping the prospects, because we touched about that early on in the show with the move that they made for Licky. And it is very possible, but at the same time, if you're able to get a flamethrower lefty, that might be a weapon if he's going to be able to progress and be effective. Lefty relievers can be a very valuable commodity.
Yes,
We've
they
seen
can.
that with Licky. We saw that we've seen that tremendously in the postseason with Peralta. Peralta was he wasn't a flamethrower, but he can close his eyes and hit his spot at the same time.
Yes,
So he may not have the velocity, but his his pinpoint is on point, and that's very valuable in pitching.
it is very
It
valuable.
keeps these hitters now are so used to seeing these pitches coming in 100 miles an hour. When you get those guys that just throw a little like low 90s, that is just as effective now as that when it was the other way around, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And you make a very good point when you say that, is that it's very hard to come by guys who are lefty with heat. That's not something that you see often. I mean, there are guys who, who are like a Wandy Peralta, who are crafty but still have some velo to their stuff. Now, whether or not they want to, take the other guys, not Santos in particular, but the other guys that they acquired and use them and flip them and, I don't know, maybe throw a Herman or a Garcia or a Hill in there with a Dominguez, that could be something that could entice Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think that they're going to be very reluctant to move on from Dominguez, only because we only have at this in this juncture we only have Bader for this season, and then he's a free agent if we can't extend him.
Yeah,
So that's going to leave an issue for the outfield because
yes,
you will be taking a hit on your depth. Because now we're going to be looking for even more outfielders next offseason or at the trade deadline.
very
And
true.
then we're going to put ourselves back behind the 8 ball, which is why you cannot unload all your prospects for one player
No.
now.
Now, here's the other thing, which I had mentioned, was a 3-team deal.
Yeah.
Get another team involved, have them help you out on the pitching side of things, and then that way you don't have to dig too deep into your prospect pool, and you can give up maybe a guy like, for example, a Peraza or a Wells, and then that way you're not taking as much of a hit as if it were just you and Pittsburgh. So you could get another team involved to deal with the pitching side of things while we deal with the fielding side of things.
Yeah, that's where things get a little tricky, because which pieces do you move? Because here's what's going to happen: they're going to get moved on. Say we do move a Peraza, and
Okay.
he becomes an all-star, and Reynolds is just what he is now. He's a above average fielder with a good solid bat, but doesn't reach that superstar status that just blows us all away.
Yeah.
Yeah, and are we willing to accept the fact? Are we willing to watch Peraza develop into a superstar somewhere else? Because then we'll be saying, how did they let go of this guy? How did they pass this guy up? There's always that. It always happens. Especially we hear it more so with the Rule 5 draft. When we lost Whitlock. We were all saying, how could you let this guy go? Well, we didn't want to get rid of anybody else to make room for him on the roster. So you fall into that. That's why we're here in management and Cashman, his office does what they do.
Yeah. Jonathan, I'm going to put this up on the screen, but Jonathan said that we would be – where is it here? That the Yankees would be in a better position to trade if they didn't make the trade for Montas.
I actually think that's a very valid comment. That's got validity to it, because we would still have Sears as if we still had Sears in our system, I think the Reynolds deal is absolutely doable. It's a very good move. He would be that piece that would be gone, but we already moved him. And that's where it comes into where we're constantly trying to balance who we can afford to watch to progress somewhere else and who we want to hold on to.
Right.
And that's where Torres is right now, actually. He's a guy that a lot of teams have called on for that, we weren't ready to move on from. And then we had that year, the year they put him in at shortstop, and we're going, why are we holding on to this guy?
Right.
He's trying to rebuild his value. So he's kind of pressing a little bit. I think one more year at short, if he's able to play second for one more season because his defense improved a lot. His focus was there this year. The bat came in spurts. He wasn't lighting it up for a long period of time, but his slumps were not as drastic as
Yes.
when he was playing shortstop.
Now, there was a guy I had mentioned, as well as Jason of 161 River Ave, before he signed with Baltimore, was Adam Frazier. That would have been a guy to look at.
Yeah.
Super utility guy. He could have been the guy to make it easier to trade a guy like a Torres or a Dominguez because he can play both the infield and the outfield, and he's very versatile. So that was a guy I had originally thought we should have signed as one of our signs, but he ended up going to Baltimore. And it was a great sign for him. Not the biggest name, not the biggest sign, but it was a great sign for him.
Well, see, and that leads into the discussion of Cashman may not be making all the sexiest moves this year. He's made moves that we've wanted. We wanted Judge back. We got him, even though we they don't really consider him a free agent. He was a free agent on the sheet, so that was a free agent signing. Anthony Rizzo, we all wanted him back. We got him back. We were all really upset to see Canely go, but understood that he was injured and wasn't going to do anything. We're able to get him back.
Yep.
So what Cashman has done this year is he may not be making the biggest moves, but he's making the smartest moves.
Yes.
He's addressing the holes on the team, not just getting, well, they're the biggest free agents, so let me go get them.
Exactly. And to get back to that Rizzo point you made, Houston's number one first base target was Anthony Rizzo. And we stopped them from getting him, which benefited us. So like you said, he's made the smart moves. Yep. He hasn't made the moves that are impulsive, that, weren't necessary, because he really thought about, hey, what is going to improve this team? And that by doing that, he showed that we are, trying to make the better moves, the smarter moves.
Yeah, well, and that's what fell into with Rodon coming on as well. He was the other big name that was escaping my mind for a second. We needed the starting pitching depth because as much as we all enjoyed watching Nestor pitch, he's thrown a lot of innings.
He threw more than I think he topped his career high, didn't he?
Oh, early, yeah. And it wasn't far after the All-Star break that he did that. So moving him down the rotation and being as effective as he is I think that was a genius move. You needed to extend your strengths, and that's what they did.
Absolutely.
Strength, because now you shifted everybody back. You're going to take the pressure off of Severino, and he's going to be in a contract year. So he's going to be, I think he's going to be extra focused, not just on winning for the club, but he's also pitching for his future. So I'm predicting that Severino is going to have a fire year.
Oh, absolutely. But just a quick shout out to the chat. We've got Dee's channel in the building. We've got Aiden. We've got Jimmy Mathers. Thank y'all for coming on tonight. If you haven't smashed those likes buttons, please do so now. It's greatly appreciated. Very helpful for the channel. We also have Dev Finch in the building. We got all of you guys. I appreciate it. We got the gang. One of the guys, two of the guys actually, or one of them that Jonathan brought up was Ken Waldachuk.
Yeah.
That's another one that would have been helpful to have used in a trade like this.
Well, that's what it is, but when we did not get Castillo, what were we all saying as fans? Well, you got to get Montage. We need that starting pitcher.
Yes.
We were all the ones that were pushing for them to get him. And then we got him. He was hurt. He wasn't as effective. Now we're hating the trade because we got rid of the pitching prospects that could have got us Reynolds. Well, we don't have nobody has that crystal ball to know what's going to happen. It's unfortunately we're stuck with that situation where you're we have no choice but to put our trust in the Cashman
Yes.
that he's going to do his best. And Cashman may not make all the popular moves, but he's very active as a GM.
Oh, he is.
That none of us, good or bad or indifferent, could take away from the guy.
Absolutely.
He's a busy guy.
And to be fair, he does good stuff for us.
The trade deadline is where he shines the best. He really does. You know, it's unfortunately he looks bad when other teams don't, want to take advantage of our depth and ask for our top guys. And Cashman's, they're not really at that value.
Yeah. But before we move on to the next topic, I just want to welcome in Chris the Flash. Chris, welcome to the channel. How you guys and how are you doing, man?
What's up, y'all?
What's going on, Chris?
So, Chris, we were talking. Tats and I were talking a little bit, and the first thing I asked him was, "How are you feeling about this year's team going into next year, rather than 21's team going into 22?"
Be honest with you, I don't know. I feel like this team has the potential to do a little bit better than last year's team. We still don't, there's still some ifs on this team that we still need to figure out. Like left field, or who's going to be the shortstop, or who's going to play third. So that's the biggest questions that we need to figure out before we even talk about the season that's coming up.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now here's a little thing that was put out. Cashman, it was either Cashman or Hal. One of them said that Volpe has the chance to win the starting shortstop job.
That was Cashman made that statement.
Okay, so that was Cashman. So yeah, how would you feel about having the middle infield as Cashman, or I'm sorry, as Volpe at short and Peraza at second?
I mean, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
The question is, where's Glaber going? Who are we trading Glaber for? And again, who's playing third? Is it going to be IKF? Is it going to be Josh Donaldson? Or is it going to be somebody we trade for?
I would rather have it as an IKF playing third because that's where he won the Gold Glove that he did. And I feel better about his bat than I do Donaldson's bat. Just because IKF puts the ball in play more than Donaldson in the later stages of Donaldson's career.
Yeah, and IKF is not a strikeout hitter either.
No,
because like you said, he makes a lot of contact. He fouls an awful lot of balls. He's a smart hitter. He might not always be effective, but he's a very smart hitter.
Yes, he is.
I was thinking if we had the right lineup, he could be our Brett Gardner, be the ninth hole hitter. When Brett Gardner was the ninth hole hitter, when we won the chip.
That's a great point. Aiden had said something earlier. We hadn't gotten to it yet, but he says Miami moves Jazz Chisholm in a trade for Pablo Lopez. Here's the thing. Miami's already got Pablo Lopez, Aiden. But I could see him moving Jazz in a trade if they're looking to not get a finished product but if they're looking to shed that payroll.
Yeah, maybe he meant if they move Chisholm, can they make revisit the trade?
That could be it too. See, that's an interesting point you brought up, actually, Tats. Would you guys feel comfortable about trading Glaber Torres to Miami in a package for Jazz Chisholm and Pablo Lopez?
No, I actually think that the move with Torres would be to Arizona. And use some of their pitching prospects in that 3-team trade for a Reynolds.
Yeah. I could see
or you could like I just looked it up. The Miami Marlins prospects, they got pitcher prospects too. We could trade Glaber for.
Yeah. You could do that too. So actually, yeah, go ahead.
Austin's made this a lot. This whole thing with left field and where how Reynolds fits in, like we were talking about in the chat for a little while yesterday, was there are so many variables that can come into play that makes sense. That's what's kept this topic alive and going on all our shows for so long now. I think I think it's really making the off season a little bit more fun.
It definitely is. So there was actually something, I don't know, I'm going to put this up to the screen, but I don't know if you see this, but the Marlins and the Rockies had talks about Edward Cabrera being moved over to Colorado and Brendan Rodgers. So that tells me that if they're willing to trade their pitching prospects, maybe you call up Miami and be like, hey, could you be this third team to help us? And we'll give you Torres and we'll give you a couple other guys if you help us get the guy we want. That could be something to look into as well.
Well, if Miami asks for it in return let's say Torres along with Luis Hill and Garcia.
Okay.
If those to play, like if we're getting the pitching prospects to get Reynolds, do you think that's a good move?
Yeah, I do. Because if it's gonna eventually benefit us in the end to where it makes it easier so we're not digging into the outfield pool like you were saying earlier, then yes, that's a smart move to make.
And I'll say this too, because people keep thinking, oh, we gotta trade 2 of our top 3 to get Reynolds and this and that.
No.
Y'all keep forgetting that Glaber does have value. If you can at least get a top 5 pitching prospect from one of these organizations and then throw in maybe 2 of your top 10 pitching prospects, that's all you're gonna need. You don't need, like, everybody keep talking about this Juan Soto package. I don't think that's what they want. I just think they want pitching prospects. I think that's true. But this whole Juan Soto package, I don't think that's I think that's far from the truth. And if Brian Reynolds do get traded, we're gonna find out what he gets traded for.
Yeah.
Even if it comes to us or somebody else. And I think the Blue Jays overpaid for Varsho.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
And I've heard a lot of comparisons of Varsho to Joey Gallo. And this is what I'm hearing. They're saying that he is like a Joey Gallo 2.0 because he strikes out a lot and he's got pop. That's what I've been hearing. I haven't seen him play, so I don't know exactly because I'm not a Diamondback fan, so I don't know. I didn't get the chance to see him. But that's kind of a scary thing that you just gave your number 1 prospect for a guy who's being compared to Joey Gallo.
Well, the Arizona keeps coming up because they do have a lot of outfield depth.
Yes, they do.
So they're able, and they have other areas that they have an overwhelming amount. Like we have a lot of shortstops. We just traded for another one.
Yeah.
So the outfield depth is just, for them is very movable, just like our shortstop depth things. It's just a matter of which prospect are we willing to part with. Because everyone's like, well, you got to keep Peraza because when he came up, he showed that he wasn't fazed by being in the big spotlight.
Yeah.
But they've also been passing up on a lot of shortstops the last couple of years, waiting on Volpe.
Mm-hmm.
We've been waiting on Volpe since we let Didi walk.
Yeah.
Trying to fill that gap. So it really, that's where you're gonna have to look for the teams. Who's looking for that shortstop? Who's looking for the outfield depth, pitching depth? And those are the teams you need to get involved if you're going to go multi-team.
So a couple of things and one point to get to that. First off, Trent Grisham has been made available by Miami. Would that be a pivot if you could not get a Reynolds deal done for whatever reason?
I think if you're not able to put the right package together for Reynolds, I think you dive back into where your depth is in the outfield. Who's ready? Who's just about ready? Do you go with the stop? A lot of people are not 100% sure about Cabrera being an everyday left fielder. But
yes,
you also would still have, because whether we like it or not, and most of us don't, Hicks is still on the roster. So if you need Cabrera to fill in on the infield, you could throw Hicks as your fourth outfielder in left field for a game, and get Cabrera a little more mobility around the diamond. So we have in-house options where we don't have to sell the house. It's just how creative can they get without looking like they don't know what they're doing.
Good point, Chris.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I don't want no, Max Kepler or Grisham and stuff like that. Like, if we're gonna go big, I want Reynolds. If we can't get Reynolds, I'll take Thomas from the D-backs. If we can't get him, I'd rather just go with an in-house option.
No, fair enough. And also, you were talking about shortstop stats, and Chris. The Marlins just signed Gene Segura. Okay.
Yeah, I almost forgot about that.
They've already said they're going to play Segura at third. Now, if they were so inclined to, they could call Miami up and say, "Hey, we'll give you, Torres, Gil, Argil, and Garcia." That way, they can move Jazz Chisholm to the short, have him play short, Torres at second, and we'll take, Cabrera and X, Y, and Z along with Cabrera for pitching prospects. That way, you can then possibly make that Brian Reynolds trade more feasible.
Chris, you can take this first.
Like, if they sign, because I keep hearing Jazz trying to get traded. So even though they signed Gene Segura and he wants to play third, like, if they trying to trade Jazz too, because that's the rumors too that they trying to get rid of Jazz for some reason. I mean, why wouldn't they try to get a second baseman that's just as good as Jazz? Glaber's not Glaber fell off, with the juice balls and everything, but he was doing good in the playoffs at first, and then he dropped off. He's not a bad player. It's just I don't think he's meant for New York. Yeah. So I think if he goes to Miami, I think he'll have a better, because he's not I don't think he's like Gary, because Gary's not that good.
No, he would thrive, I think, in Miami. I think that would be a good spot for him.
So that's just my belief. I just think if something were to happen, it's gonna happen.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I think it also serves Cashman well to look at other teams that may want him at second base and not just fixate on the Marlins and watch everybody else fill in their gaps.
Mm-hmm. And it's another thing too. And people keep talking about the shortstops and stuff like that. Do people not know that we have two shortstops that's coming up right behind the two shortstops that we already have?
Volpe and Peraza.
Yeah.
And then you've got Trey Sweeney right behind them.
And then you got Arias.
Yep,
Roderick Arias.
Yeah, we have a lot of depth. We have more depth than people realize, where we can get but it's all the matter of, like I've been saying, how much of your stock do you want to trade for right now, and not have those stocks to cash in on in 2 years from now? How much stock do we want to trade off in the off season and have no ammunition left for the trade deadline? So it's really that game of chess, not checkers, that we need to be playing right now.
Yeah, I agree with that. So moving on to the season for the Yankees. So last year we saw them have a great year. They overachieved from what everyone was expecting. We didn't hit in the playoffs in the ALCS against Houston. We all saw that. Do you think that it's because we had too many dead spots in the lineup, or guys were just worn out from the season?
I think it was a combination of both. I actually think the stress of Judge's home run chase really just overstressed the whole team, because they were all trying so hard to just win every game that he hit a home run. They burned out so quick. Yeah. So I think that was a big part of it.
Yeah, I think the only person that was like really, I think that had like a lot of fatigue to them, because it was physically and mentally, was probably Judge. We definitely had a lot of like dead spaces in our lineup. I mean, of course, Donaldson. Then what? Hicks played, and then he got hurt. And then Cabrera, he was having mental lapses. So it just, and then they didn't know who wanted to play short.
Yeah.
No,
So
Like,
I was saying there were definitely a lot of holes in the lineup.
yeah,
I'm not trying to say that everybody was just all overstressed. Judge,
No.
I think because Judge especially, I think is the number one. I gave him a pass in the postseason because if it wasn't for him, he wouldn't have even had those games.
Yeah.
Right, and I just think once he was finally able to exhale, he just took his foot off the gas just a little too much, and just wasn't able to rev it back up. Donaldson was a dead spot. He was just completely useless. Everybody just went cold except for
Harrison.
Stanton and Bader.
Bader,
Those
yeah,
two on the offense just lit it up. And Rizzo had a decent postseason too, but just not enough. But if you dive a little deep, Rizzo did. He had very good at bats as well, but that's only 3 players out of 9 in your lineup. That's not going to get it done.
No. Bader single-handedly hit the Astros all over the yard. It didn't matter who they threw at him. He would do something. So you've got a great point on that. I mean, this year we had the Aaron Judge home run chase. Great. We made the postseason. Great. But we still had the holes that did not get fixed.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. So now that I look at this year's team going into next year with Rodon now in the fold to help Cole out, with which Chris, you've said on numerous occasions, and as of UTATs, that Rodon is going to be that guy to push Cole, and Chris, you even said this, it'll get him back into that Houston form that he was in.
Yeah.
And then you've got Rizzo back in the fold. You've got Judge back in the fold. Now you've got something. So to me, what it tells me is that they're going all in and that they want to go all in. So now is the time to get that last piece to finish that. And that's why I think the Reynolds deal is the deal to make, because that says we are all in, we are ready to win now. And it shows Judge that, and it gives him that reassurance. What do you guys think?
No, I think if you're able to get Reynolds, I think that we can push a team like Houston that embarrassed us in 4 games. That goes to 7 games, that series, with Reynolds on that roster. I think he is that type of impact player. He is the pivot to not being able to get Benintendi.
yeah.
I'm
about to say he also brings us a leadoff hitter that we haven't had in a while too, and people keep forgetting about that.
Yep. Jonathan brought up a great point. Many key guys were injured. One of them was Benintendi, because if you remember, Benintendi got hot towards the end of the season, or was getting hot, and then he had that freak wrist injury.
Yep.
So that's a good point, Jonathan. That's very valid. Many key guys were injured. We also had the loss of Michael King. We had 14 guys on the IL last year. Towards the end, once that stretch where we went 51-50, we had 14 guys on the IL.
You can't. I don't care what roster you have. If you have that many injuries going into the postseason, you're a sitting duck. You really are.
Absolutely.
When you don't have your depth and your impact depth, when you don't have Benintendi and LeMahieu to hit it into the gap, when you don't have King right, when you don't have Holmes right, we didn't have Efros, he was on the shelf. There was so many guys that had gotten us to where we were that we didn't have anymore. That's what hurt.
Yeah.
I agree.
I mean, When Holmes collapsed the way he did, that was scary to watch as a Yankee fan, just because of the fact that he was so good earlier in the year. And then all of a sudden you see the collapse of this guy who has just been on point all year, and he's turned to what? The inconsistent guy. It's another Aroldis Chapman. It's like, what is going on here? But the
What I
King
think I wanted to speak about that too. What I think what happened was he didn't know if he could trust anybody else in that bullpen, so he was like, "I'm gonna put it all on me." And that was the problem. He shouldn't have did that. But then, if you've seen it over the playoffs, he started finding his form. But
yes,
who was picking him up though? Who was coming
Wandy
up with
Pro.
him? Wandy. So then he started seeing Wandy picking it up. So then he started not choking as much. He started not, going back to, how he was at the middle toward the end of the season where he was like collapsing a little bit. So that's what I think what it was. Michael King was his security blanket.
Yes.
And once he lost that, it was over.
Yep. And Tats made a great point on his show, which was Wandy Peralta's a lefty. And he even said it here today, too, that Wandy Peralta's a lefty. And he was a reliable arm. So you need guys like that. Because we were talking about Lissandro. That's what his name is. Lissandro Santos. They just picked him up from the Braves. They released him. The Yankees signed him, and he's starting off in AAA for us. And he throws anywhere from 94 to 97 and tops out at 99. And he's a lefty.
I think when we get it, now that we have more of a solid bullpen going back into the season, and we had a solid bullpen going into last season, but losing key guys like, King and Holmes having his issues in the middle of the year. And let's not forget Chad Green. We also have Britton that was hurt. Chad Green was kind of like the forgotten bullpen arm last year. Mm-hmm. He was almost never brought up. And we weren't doing it ourselves. He was almost forgotten, until we started really going through the injury list. Yep. Chapman was Chapman, Yep. So, Chapman was August Chapman as early as April. So he was almost, he was an idiot. Thank God he's not coming back.
Yeah.
So when you have a guy like Holmes that is getting thrown into a closer role, and when you're closing for the Yankees, you have that shadow of Mariano above your shoulder.
Yeah.
Because that's what we all were watching after so many years. We expect, and sometimes naively expect every closer to be Mariano. It's not going to happen.
Nope.
Not that we need to lower our expectations, but we really need to at the same time. Holmes was not that he was a terrible pitcher. I think he was pressing just a little bit because as he was getting his innings, other teams are now reading his book, and they were adjusting to him. He just wasn't quick to adjust back to keep them back off balance.
Yeah, I agree with that. Something that he probably needed to do and do it quickly. But the one issue I had last year was when they brought Zach Britton back and they had him pitch in a game. I said it then, and Chris, I think you and I were on Kev's channel doing a watch along, and I said he was not healthy. And he pitched maybe 3 pitches and then came out of the game. He wasn't healthy. They rushed him back. No. He got re-injured.
Yeah, he wasn't ready. And another person too, I hated it because it was like, Aaron Boone, what are you thinking? Was Clark Smith. You put Clark Smith in a situation where he was going to lose. Yeah, what was it? We was tied with Houston. He put Clark Smith in, and then he gave up like 3 runs.
Yeah, we were up by 2, and he gave up 3 runs. Yeah.
So that's another thing. Like we like the bullpen is straight, but I still think we need one more lefty because we only got one lefty, and it's Wandy.
So one of the guys in the chat brought up Gregory Soto. Would that be a name that would be someone you would be into looking at? Maybe trading a Torres for him?
I think anytime you can add arms, you try to make that move. If the deal is the right deal.
Yeah.
So he's not one of those that you have to go get. But if the move is right, add the arms. It never hurts to have arms.
Yep.
That's what made the trade deadline last year so confusing with Montgomery. We traded our pitching depth for an injured player. That we didn't know if Beta was even going to be able. We didn't know if he was going to play. They weren't sure how his foot was going to heal. So we may have traded away pitching depth, even though he wasn't going to be in the rotation for the postseason. That we know. But we could have still used him out of the bullpen, to eat an inning or two, which we could have used. No, now you put the pressure on Clark Schmidt. So it did come back and bite. So it's if anytime you can add pitching depth, you jump on it.
Yeah. Now, going into this year for the bullpen, we've got Ron Marinaccio coming back off of injury. We've got Michael King coming back off of injury. We've got Wandy Peralta. We've got who else do we have? We've got I'm trying to think who else we've got. We've got Clay Holmes. Let's see. We've got Clay Holmes, Wandy Peralta, Marinaccio, Michael King. We also have got Scott E. Frost coming back.
Yep.
Yeah.
We've got
Trevino.
Trevino. We've got Loizica.
Yep.
So this bullpen going into this year, I feel a lot better about than I did last year because of who we have coming back.
When you actually give down the list of names of the relievers that we have, it really doesn't make Soto really, aside from the side, righty lefty. It really, who are you giving up out of that? Who would you give up? Because it's going to be a reliever swap for Soto, I believe. Because we're going to need to, how many, we can't have 20 guys in the bullpen.
Right.
So somebody's going to have to get subtracted from that.
Yeah.
So who would we want to, who would you give up for a Soto? That's that, is it a Marinaccio? Do you sell him high? Is it Lasagna? Do you let him go on and see if he can, be a dominant reliever elsewhere?
Yeah. It's hard because now with how many big names that we now have coming back and in that bullpen, Chris, I'm going to throw this to you, but it seems like this bullpen is pretty set and pretty stacked for what we've got.
I mean, we could probably it all depends on the Reynolds thing too, because what if Clark Schmidt, he's part of our bullpen. Domingo is part of our bullpen too. What if we trade them for Reynolds? I mean, their contracts ain't big, so I know the Pirates would definitely take them.
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to think who else would we give up?
So we would have. First off, we would have to, the starting price for that would have to be Dominguez, Volpe, or Peraza. There's no way around that. So one of them, either a Clayton Beater and a Will Warren, or a Clayton Beater and a Hill or Garcia. Then you would have to look into your major league depth, which would be, it could be a Marinaccio, it could be a Herman, it could be a Loizica, it could be any one of those guys. So that would be the starting place or the starting block if you even wanted to come close to a deal.
It's like I said, any trade that we do in the offseason is going to hurt because it's going to include a player that we've kind of held in high regard.
Yeah.
So how much do we want to hurt to win? Because winning sometimes hurts. And this is that year. It's not going to hurt. It's going to freaking sting.
Yeah. But to,
I'll say this. People talking about it's gonna hurt. I'm sorry. How long has it been since we won a chip? That hurts a lot worse.
yeah,
And all they got to do is win, and we'll feel a lot better. That's the
There you go.
See, the thing is, here's the thing. Let's say you do trade it Dominguez, getting to that point, and Herman and Amaranaccio for a Reynolds, but you win the championship. Does that sting immediately go away?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the other side to it that you got to look at.
Well,
and see, people keep forgetting about this. All right, so if we trade Dominguez, as people keep talking about, oh, Jason close. All right, if Beta has a decent half a year, first of all, you got to extend him.
Yeah.
Then you got Judge.
Yep.
Then you got people keep forgetting about this, but I don't think the Yankees want to make the same mistake that they did with Judge. You got O'Du that they just drafted that already played high school ball.
Oh, Spencer Jones?
Yeah. So do we really need Jason Dominguez that bad? If they classifying Jones as the next, Aaron Jones, Aaron Judge, but the lefty version.
That's true.
Well, one of the things, Mike, that we talked about with Hector on when it was the three of us, where is the guarantee that Dominguez is going to be that Juan Soto superstar outfielder?
Exactly.
There's
no guarantee
any of it. And not to say he can't do it, but will he do it? If there is such a demand for him, how many of our prospects do we want to say are a can't miss that are a miss? We've already watched it. We've already messed up. We already messed up by not trading for Cole because we were so, we were holding so tightly to Frazier, Andujar, and those guys when they were moving him from Pittsburgh. Or he was almost the rookie of the year. You can't trade Andujar. He's going to be just fine. Give him. Well, where is he now? Frazier. We were all set. There were fans saying you can't leave Frazier. You just got to get a fair shot. Where's Florial?
Chance Adams.
Chance Adams. All these guys that Garcia supposed to be the
killer bees.
There's a long list of these prospects that never panned out.
So that's the thing, and I get people want to hold on to Dominguez, and I get that. That's fine. I get that. But one, he has not proven himself. He has not been to the majors yet. So why are you going to risk holding on to a guy that you don't know is even going to pan out? Two, he's had issues with his hustle. It's been noted 3 different times. 3, with Dominguez, is his numbers really going to translate into the major league level? Because look at Florial. He was touted as this big superstar, came up to the majors and couldn't hit major league pitching.
That was he was supposed to be that that power contact guy with speed on the bases, and he hasn't been the contact guy at all.
No.
So that was part of my point. Was we want to hold up, we want a prospect hug so tightly because they're our guys, and we watched what the dynasty was able to do in the '90s because they were our guys with a couple of plugins here and there to fill in the gap. Well, we already tried that with this group, and it's not working. We may have to pivot and either bring these guys up and just let them learn learn as they go. They're not that far off, and just say, all right, let's just see what we got. If we're not going to trade them, let's play them and save ourselves some money and stay under that next threshold.
And I want to say this too, and this I think this is another problem I have. Everson Pereira, Jones, Dominguez, Volpe, Peraza, Cabrera, and Sweeney. Wells is coming up too. All these prospects are not going to hit.
Nope.
So why not trade them?
Yes, you might get maybe one or two out of that.
Yeah, pick the ones you really want to keep and trade the rest of it so you can fill a team out. And you can save money by this too, extending your players while they're young.
Yes, exactly. Look at the Braves. I'm putting the Braves out there because they just did this again. They just inked Sean
that was a
Murphy
steal.
6 years, $73 million deal. So for all the players that they have acquired or drafted, they have spent $621.1 million on locking these guys up.
That's
Austin
crazy.
Riley, Michael Harris, Matt Olson. They are spending the money to keep their guys around. That is the tactic the Yankees should be following.
Well, that's why the first mistake that they made was not locking up Judge after his rookie year. They should have given him a contract right away. But no, we don't know. Why are you going to pay him? He had an injury. We don't know if he's going to pan out. It's only 1 year. You can't do that. Now we're going back. Well, you should have done it. That's why a lot of other fan bases can't stand us, because we're never happy.
No, we really aren't.
But that's because we used to winning.
Yeah, but RC from the NYC just brought up a great point. Jason, what's going on, brother, man? How are you? Thank you for stopping by. But RC said the Yankees always have an age problem. Our rookies are usually 23, 24, 25 when they debut in the Bronx. And I'm going to put that up on the screen, and we're going to discuss this.
I think that is one of the biggest issues that really needs to be a talking point until the end, until spring training hits. That is an absolute key problem.
Yes.
We're not going, you look at players like Trout, and, Soto and Harper. Those guys were all brought up so young. And look what they got out of Riley and Harris in Atlanta that you brought up.
Yep.
They're being called up when they're 20, 19, 20, 21. But no, we want to watch how many years we have to, keep them under control.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have an age problem. We have a greed problem. We don't want to pay these guys. Well, times are changing because a lot of owners, and we've seen it a lot this year, when they are available, they're getting their money, and they're paying big. A lot of these owners are actually overpaying for players just to get them because they don't have other options.
Yeah. So I'm going to bring up.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring up.
It doesn't make sense.
What happened?
I'm about to say, yeah, it don't make sense. I think the last person we brought up that was in their early 20s was Glaber, but Glaber wasn't our prospect.
Yep. I'm gonna name 4 guys that have been brought up and been, that are going to be absolute studs. One's already a stud, as we've seen. Vaughn Grisham of Atlanta, the shortstop prospect that they have. They just brought him up. He's on the 40-man roster, and he is projected to be their opening day shortstop. That's number 1. Number 2, Adley Rutschman, the starting catcher of the Baltimore Orioles. Number 3, Gunnar Henderson of the Baltimore Orioles, their third base / shortstop. Yep. And number 4, Grayson Rodriguez, the Orioles' young stud starting pitcher with a flame-throwing arm. Those 4 guys are going to be studs, and I can guarantee you if we don't see Grayson starting off on the Major League roster this year, early in the season, he'll be up later in the year because teams like the Braves and the Orioles don't care about team control because they're going to lock them up anyways. We know this. They want them to come up when they're young, come up early, and they want them to get the chance to get that major league experience, which is something we do not do, and I don't understand why we don't do it.
I'll bring up an even better example. Jeremy Pena. The Astros, They had Carlos Correa, one of the best touted shortstops on the market. They passed him up because they had faith that this kid was going to be able to take care of it because they felt he was ready.
Yep,
So
Jeremy Pena.
Jeremy Pena had come up, and what did he do? He killed it this year,
Killed it.
and with us.
Yep.
Well, maybe if you give these guys a little vote of confidence, they'll actually surprise you.
Yep. Jason brought up actually a great point. Braden Shoemaker is the shortstop for Atlanta. That's another one. That's another young stud that's going to be killing it. Is Braden Shoemaker?
Look at the two rookie of the years. Harris from Atlanta, 21, and Julio Rodriguez, 21.
Yep. Well, J-Rod just got a massive contract extension.
Yep.
That's what I'm saying.
Seattle.
Lucky for them, they don't play for the Yankees.
Yeah.
They be making minimum wage.
Okay, sit back down. Oh, you playing too good. Get
and a pat on the back. Thanks for the ticket sales.
Yeah. Get back down there.
I mean, it's kind of nuts to think that this is what the Yankees do. And even over the course of the year, they waited to bring up Cabrera and Peraza, and yet both when they came up didn't play half bad. They brought that spark we needed.
Yep. No, and that's what I was actually very shocked of the amount of play time that Cabrera got because they don't normally do that.
No,
now, it was either because they were told they had no choice to play him, or he was just he got lucky. But look, I don't want them to do the Peraza because they started doing it last year, like they did with every other prospect they called up, mainly Florial, where they're called up and they sit on the bench for a few games and they go back down, and they never really got into a rhythm of hitting on the major league level or fielding on the major league level. That's the other part of the Yankee problem is when they do call them up, they don't trust them.
Yep. And that is a problem.
They gotta stop that because if Peraza is our best defensive prospect when it comes to the shortstop position, you gotta let him play, bro. His bat's gonna come.
Yep.
I'd rather him play good defense than put IKF on at short.
Well, and that's the thing. I could sacrifice one at bat out of 9 if he's going to be an elite defender, especially if it's the shortstop position, because that's an elite defensive position. We can have Peraza batting 8th or 9th, no problem. Mm-hmm. We have enough bats that can carry him until he gets his swing timing right. But when you saw in that his first time he's on the field in the postseason, when you're fresh off the farm, that ball finds you. It found him. He made a phenomenal play, and he was ready to play. That's why I have him as my starting shortstop next year.
Yep. So just to quickly put something out there, Anthony Volpe is only 21. And he's projected to be the start. And he is not projected, but he's been told that he has a legitimate shot to win the starting shortstop job this year. And if you're going to do that, you got to let him play and trust him.
I think, to be honest with you, I just think he should be our second baseman.
I agree with that.
Like, yeah, I just feel like all that pressure that we putting on him, I feel like he should be our second baseman and then keep Peraza. If we don't trade Peraza, that should be our shortstop and second baseman and get rid of Gleyber.
Yep, that's what I think. I totally agree with that. But Jason just put something out non-Yankees related that the Dodgers have confirmed that they are releasing Trevor Bauer. Thoughts?
Don't bring him here.
I don't think he's coming here. I mean,
we don't need that damage.
A part of me, I'm hoping whoever takes him, I hope he does good. Because that incident, he shouldn't have put himself in that position. But if he already him and that girl had signed clauses and stuff like that, and all that stuff came out, I just think, yeah, I think he'll do pretty good. I mean, I don't think he's coming here because him and Cole don't have a good relationship.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah,
But there was something you brought up earlier, Tats, about the outfield depth that we have. We have Everson Pereira, who's our number 5 prospect, who's an outfielder. We have Spencer Jones, who's our number 7 prospect, who's an outfielder. We've got Anthony Hall, who's our number 17 prospect, who's an outfielder. Elijah Dunham, who's our number 19 prospect, who's an outfielder. Brandon Lockridge, our number 26 prospect, who's an outfielder. So we do have outfield depth behind Dominguez. So I would not be opposed to trading Dominguez because we do have that outfield depth behind him.
But the problem with moving Dominguez, and if it's for the right move, I'm not against it. But we've been hearing about him for so long that that's going to be one of those. It's going to hurt to, that's going to be a very painful move. It has to be the right deal. If we're just going to be like, we've been so talked up about this guy, how he's going to be, what was the comparison? The mantle? I mean, come on now. Who are we kidding?
Let's not go that far.
They get so crazy about these comparisons to begin with. I don't want to go off on that tandem. But it's, we hear about – I'm tired of hearing about how great these guys are going to be. Let them come up and prove it.
Yep. And that's the thing. I want the finished product of Jason Dominguez, which is Brian Reynolds. I don't want the could be, should be, would be product of a Brian Reynolds. I want that finished product because we don't know how those numbers are going to translate because minor league numbers don't always translate. And that's what fans don't think about is, he's being compared to Mickey Mantle. Let's pump the brakes on that for a second. We can't jump to that until he proves it.
All I can do is shake my head because I don't understand. And it seemed like it's only us or the organization for the Yankees that do this. Because when Mike Trout was coming out, I never heard somebody say, Mike Trout, you're going to be the next Babe Ruth.
Nope, never heard that. Or,
and it's
hey,
like,
Mike Trout, you're going to be the next Ken Griffey Jr.
Yeah,
no one ever.
Come on, bro.
Some players just can't be compared to.
No.
And that's just like when they were all saying, the whole thing with Ohtani. Oh, he's the second coming of Babe Ruth. No, because Babe Ruth had to do what he did to save the sport, not just improve his team. Save the sport after a scandal. So Ohtani didn't have that pressure on him either.
No. I mean, yes, he's a two-way player like Babe Ruth was, but
he's nowhere talent, but he's not
right. But he's nowhere near the level of a Babe Ruth.
No.
So
tell it to
all these comparisons, it just I laugh at them because it's like, wait a minute. That's a much different era that we're talking about. We're not talking about now. We're talking about guys who played in the 60s, 70s, and earlier. And you're going to compare these guys, these prospects to them? We can't do that.
It's not fair.
No.
Not fair.
Oh, hold up. We forgot one more. Oh, Volpe. He's going to be the next Jeter. Why? Let the kid just play. Let him have fun.
But we're so that's the other part of the angle is we're so desperate at this point for a title. We don't care who's on the roster and who gets moved anymore. Where as fans we're conjuring these ridiculous trade proposals. And we're not even stopping to think long term. We're so stuck in the now that we're not even able to enjoy it because
he's
he's playing really well. Who can we move him for? Or we have somebody like Judge playing really well in right field, having a phenomenal rookie year, and all we're talking about is Bryce Harper because he's the shiny toy on another team. That's got to stop too.
Yep. But we're going to wrap this up in a little bit. But before we do, I do have an announcement that I'm going to make about the 4Train Express channel. So the 4Train Express just started last year, or this year, I should say. And I thank everyone for your support. I thank everyone who's helped me start it and get this up and running. But my channel is actually looking to expand into more opportunities as well, get more people on. We're going to come back next year with a new logo, new look, new everything. So next year, the 4Train Express is going to be back up better than ever, and we're going to keep doing our thing. Tats, thank you for everything. Chris, thank you for everything. Jason, shout outs to you guys too. Everyone who's helping me, I thank all of y'all. But 2023, the 4Train Express is getting a whole new look, whole new makeover.
I'm looking forward to that. It's been really
Can't wait to see you.
been a lot of fun hanging out with you the last few months in the chats.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to thank everybody for hopping on the 4Train Express today, coming on to live, watching Tats, Chris the Flash, myself, Jason. As always, thank you for coming on. You are awesome. I thank all of you guys who had come on earlier. You can find Tats at Pinstripe Chronicles Podcast. Chris the Flash, you can find him as well on YouTube and Twitter. Jason is the same thing. BX Sports Jedi Kev, Hector at Yankees Morning Brew, and Nick's Morning Brew at KOD Nation. Jigga Man Porto, same thing. Please subscribe to these guys' channels. They absolutely more than deserve it. It's greatly appreciated. Show them some love. Guys, I want to thank you again for coming on. Happy, safe, and healthy and prosperous New Year to you both and everyone in the chat. I thank you guys for coming on. I'm your boy, the 4Train Express. Any last words for you guys?
I just want to wish everybody, like you said, a very happy and prosperous New Year, and let's get that title.
Same. I'm blessed to be a part of this community. I mean, I'm from Louisiana, so I'm far from New York, but I love the Yankees, and hopefully, they get number 28 for us.
Yes, absolutely. All right, guys. Have a happy New Year, safe, prosperous, healthy. And this is your boy, the 4Train Express. We are pulling into the station. I will see you guys next time.